Hey everyone! Today we're going to break down a really important law that affects millions of us every single day, the POSH Act. Whether you're an intern just starting out, a contractor, or a full-time employee in India, this is the law that guarantees your right to a safe and respectful workplace. So let's dive in and figure out exactly what it means for you.
Now, everything we're about to talk about comes directly from the official text of the law itself, the one passed by India's parliament back in 2013. We're going straight to the source so we can all be crystal clear on what our rights are and exactly how they're protected.
Right from the very beginning, the Act frames this issue in such a powerful way. It says that sexual harassment isn't just bad behavior. It's a violation of a woman's fundamental rights to equality and her right to live with dignity. So right away, you see that the law treats this not just as a workplace problem, but as a serious matter of human rights.
Okay, so here's our game plan. First, we'll get into the core idea behind the law, the right to safety. Then, we'll nail down the specifics of what actually counts as harassment under the law. After that, we'll walk through the step-by-step process for getting help, cover what your employer is legally required to do, bust some common myths, and then we'll wrap it all up by talking about dignity at work.
So let's start at the very beginning. Why does this law even exist? Well, it's about so much more than just punishing people. It's about proactively creating and protecting a fundamental right to safety for every single person in the workplace.
The whole purpose is written right there in its name. Think of it like a three-legged stool. The first leg is prevention, stopping harassment before it can even start. The second is prohibition, making it absolutely clear this behavior is not okay. And the third is redressal, which is just a formal way of saying there's a clear system to get help and set things right if something does happen.
All right, so that's the big picture, the why. But to really make a law work for you, you've got to understand the language it speaks. This next part is absolutely crucial because we're going to look at the official definitions, so there's no gray area.
Okay, so this is the heart of it. The single most important word in the legal definition of sexual harassment is unwelcome. It's not about what the other person intended, not at all. It's all about the impact it has on the person experiencing it. If the behavior is unwelcome, it can be sexual harassment, period.
And the law doesn't just leave it at that. It gets super specific so you're not left guessing. It lists out concrete examples, things like unwelcome physical contact, asking for sexual favors, making sexually inappropriate jokes or comments, or showing pornography. And it even has a catch-all for any other kind of unwelcome behavior of a sexual nature, whether it's spoken, physical, or even nonverbal.
Now, who is actually protected by this law? This is so important. The law's definition of an aggrieved woman is incredibly broad. It's any woman of any age, and get this, it doesn't matter if she's a full-time employee or not. This means interns, consultants, trainees, volunteers, basically anyone connected to the workplace is covered.
And it's the same deal with the idea of a workplace. You might think it's just your desk or your office building, right? Nope. The law sees it as way more than that. It covers government offices, private companies, hospitals, schools, and even any place you might go for your job, like a client's office, a business trip, or even the company cab home.
So knowing the definitions is step one. But now let's get into the most practical part of all this. What can you actually do if you or someone you know is going through this? This is where we break down the official process for getting help.
So how does this actually play out in the real world? The Act lays out a very specific, time-bound process to make sure every complaint is taken seriously and handled fast. Let's walk through it together.
The law builds in a sense of urgency with two really key deadlines. First, a written complaint has to be filed within 3 months of the incident. And once that's done, the internal committee is legally required to wrap up its investigation within 90 days. And listen, these aren't just suggestions, they are hard and fast deadlines.
The whole thing basically follows these 5 steps. It starts when you submit a complaint in writing. That complaint goes to a special body called the internal committee, which then kicks off a formal inquiry. Think of it like an official internal investigation. After they're done, they write up a report with their findings, and this is the final, crucial step. Your employer is then legally required to take action based on that report.
So, who exactly is on this powerful committee? Well, the law is very, very specific about who's on it to make sure it's fair and balanced. It has to be led by a senior woman from the company. It needs at least 2 other employees. It must have 1 external member from an NGO to bring in an impartial perspective. And critically, at least half of the entire committee has to be women.
This brings us to a really important point. The responsibility for a safe workplace doesn't just fall on you and your colleagues. No, the law places that duty squarely on the shoulders of the employer.
The law gives employers a whole checklist of things they absolutely must do. And it goes way beyond just reacting to problems. They have to proactively create a safe environment, they have to run awareness programs, and they have to put up notices about the consequences of harassment. They have to set up that internal committee we talked about. And they even have to help an employee if she decides she wants to file a separate police complaint. The pressure is on the company to build a safe culture from the ground up.
And the law definitely has teeth. There are real consequences if companies don't follow these rules. For instance, if an employer fails to even create an internal committee, they can be hit with a fine of up to 50,000 rupees. So they have to take this seriously. You know, sometimes misinformation can be the biggest reason people don't come forward. It can be scary. So in this next section, we're going to do some myth-busting and compare some common fears directly to what the law actually says.
All right, here's a huge one. The myth that you have to be a permanent, full-time staffer to get protection. But the law? No way. It is so clear on this. It defines employee to include everyone. Regular, temporary, contract workers, trainees, apprentices, even people who are just volunteering their time. Everybody is covered.
This is another major fear, right? That if you file a complaint, it'll get out and everyone will know your business. But the law has your back here. It demands strict confidentiality. The names of the people involved, the details of the complaint, the investigation process, none of it can be published or leaked to the public or the media. Your privacy is protected by law.
So, we've covered the what, the how, and the why of the POSH Act. After all that, what's the one big idea you should walk away with? Let's bring it all home.
This is it. This is the core message. A workplace that's free from harassment isn't a bonus. It's not a company perk or a nice-to-have. It is a fundamental, constitutional right that every single working woman in this country is entitled to.
And that's where we'll leave it. Understanding this law, knowing your rights, that is the first, most powerful step you can possibly take. But it leaves us with one last question, doesn't it? What's the second step? What are we all going to do with this knowledge to help make our own workplaces safer? Thanks for joining me.